I think Trump has is asking the right questions and bringing probably the wrong answers. The right question is, how do you address all this section of the population which absolutely rightly, and I think the business elite, the political elite just needs to understand that a whole set of the population has not been a winner of the 15 years of globalization. 15 years, I mean, it's just the 15th anniversary that China joined the WTO. And I think on a macro level, again, a country like China has benefited massively. On a macro level, the whole world has benefited. But you see a whole set of people which did not have the right skills to go on the trend, and probably it's going to accelerate. But let me just say one thing about Trump, because I think there is a little bit this feeling, I hear that a lot here in Paris or in Berlin, that he's not having the right policies. I think actually this is not done, it's done at a very right time, because what we should not forget is that the US is getting competitive again because of low energy prices, because emerging markets are getting expensive, because when you're automatizing, the cost of a robot is the same in Mexico, in China, or in the US. So the proportion of labor cost is actually reducing in our modern economies. So it's actually a right time to kind of reshore. We were talking about offshoring a lot, or delocalization. Today you see a lot of companies, for business reasons, who bring production closer to home. I mean, I heard that, for example, Apple is thinking about bringing part of its iPhone production back to the US. I don't know if they will do that. But I think he's not navigating against the wave. He's doing that to talk to his electorate, obviously, but he knows very clearly that it's not going to hurt the American economy that much. And look, and if he gets shale and coal again on the stream, it's terrible for the planet on the long term, but on the short term, it will make America very competitive.
All right, let me turn to Linda Huet, who's speaking to us, by the way, from the land of Brexit. Linda, what's your reaction to what you just heard from André?
No, I think there is a trend of reshoring. We have certainly seen that in parts of American manufacturing. And I think there is, I agree that President-elect Trump is certainly going with what quite a lot of American workers would like to see, jobs coming back. And I suppose the other thing to say is, it's also the case that people are now living longer, and we had always thought as economists that it's very difficult to retrain workers and reskill workers, and I think that is still largely true. But there's also evidence that that's also improving. So in other words, the American economy has always been fairly competitive and may well remain, become even more competitive. However, that doesn't change the fact that globally trade is not free. So if President-elect Trump, for instance, wants American manufacturing to remain in America and not allow them to build, say, a factory in Mexico, there will be an impact in terms of production, in terms of growth. So just give you an example. When GM builds a factory in Mexico, it can sell into the EU tariff-free its cars because they have a free trade agreement. When American cars get manufactured and sold to the EU, there's a 10% tariff. So we're not talking about things which would kill off growth, but we are talking over time, all of this would be compounded. And at a time when there is concern over the longer-term growth prospects of the U.S. economy, I think we just have to bear in mind that you're adding on frictions and costs. And so for President-elect Trump, I think he needs to balance better what happens with essentially not actively pursuing trade deals, in fact, coming out of them. And he does have the power to do that, because remember, in the United States, the president can renegotiate and withdraw from free trade agreements, as well as impose tariffs with delegated authority from Congress. But you need Congress's approval to approve a trade deal, so he can come out of them faster than he gets into them. And you could be looking at a period in which America comes out of trade agreements which could actually have an impact on its growth. And I would say over the longer term, we'll see what happens. But I come back to my earlier point, which is he's clearly concerned about American wages and American jobs. And I think there are ways to deal with that, including, as I said, retraining and reskilling, rather than putting everything on having a trade agreement which can address distribution effects, which is very unlikely, even in the most complicated trade deal. And believe me, even simple trade deals are complicated enough already.